Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo woo!
What day it is? Today is, well, it's hump day, but it is the beginning of a week-long celebration of our pastor's anniversary and how we put together a program, teaching program, because you know he loves teaching and Sunday school and Bible study. And so we, in honor of his birthday, we have put on a tremendous package for him. You want to listen to this, get your pencil, get your paper, because I'm going to make some announcements. You want to hear some of these teachers. No, you want to hear all of them, okay? Tomorrow, July the 9th, tomorrow, at 11 a.m., Diane Brown Johnson will be the teacher. You remember Diane Brown. She moved to Cincinnati, but you can't get too far that the long arm can't get you. And she will be teaching a lesson. At 12 noon, we will have Your Money Matters. At 1 o'clock, Alex Campbell, who is serving as associate minister, a pastor rather, in Bowling Green, he's going to be with us. And Reverend TNT, Tanya Triplett, at 2 o'clock is going to be our guest teacher. Then Monday the 13th, and of course we will have Sunday school at the regular time, the Kingdom Kids at 7:30, and then the Sunday school lesson, yours truly, at 8 o'clock. And then we'll have 9:30 service. Monday the 13th, we're going to have Dr. Frank Smith. You know, he's one of them head honchos over at Simmons, and he took time will do a lesson for us, 11 o'clock. 12 noon, we're going to have Reverend Jamal Armstrong, at 6 o'clock. We're going to give you a little break unless we get someone else. We're going to slide in there. We got Reverend Corey Bailey. You know, that brother's bad anyway, so you want to tune in to catch him on Monday. Right behind him, we got Sister Gail Strange, and she's a sweetheart. I love me some Gail Strange, so tune in. On Tuesday, we got Reverend Richard Lockett from the Hardin County campus. Reverend Corey Bailey is from the Indiana campus. Reverend Richard Lockett is from the Hardin County campus. He'll be on Tuesday at 12 noon. And here's the surprise. Reverend Cosby will be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 10 a.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 a.m. Then on Wednesday next week, we will have at 12 noon Reverend Ken Jobs and Generations Bible Study. And then we will be back at 1:30 with Hump Day, all right? So you will not want to miss any of that. You might want to just look on the website and keep up, because we got a few more that we are going to add in just as soon. Because, you know, I cannot tell you who, but I'll tell you that we have some others that we will have in, and you don't want to miss it. Now, if you cannot make it at the time that I just given to you, you can always go back to the St. Stephen app, or you can go to Facebook or YouTube and see it in its entirety. Or if you want to see it maybe more than once, you can do that. But this is our effort. We are going to have 15,000 viewers for Bible study by July the 15th for our pastor's birthday. Yeah, I said it. I'm not going to give his age out. That's his age. He can tell it. But we're going to do that, all right? Keep your eye on us, because St. Stephen is on the move. And if you blink, we might be gone, okay? We're gone something else. So stay with us. Now, want to give a shout out to Coffee Cafe and Christ Sunday School class. Women of Wisdom from Hardin County Sunday School class. Sister Norma Glass is usually with us on this day, as well as Sister George Smotherman and Michael Copeland and some others. Just want to give you a shout out and want you to know, I hope you're out there, RJ, because this is for you. You know what I'm talking about. So let's get started with our lesson. We're going to start on a new series today. It's called Pit, P-I-T, Pit People. And our lesson is entitled, This is the Pits. This is the pits. Let me ask you, have you ever been in a pit? Is someone you love dwelling in a pit? No matter how you got in your pit, how you got stuck, how long you've been down, whether you think you deserve to be in the pit or not, Jesus is waiting and wanting to deliver you. So after studying these lessons that we're going to have, you will know how to move from the pit to praise. Oh, that's good right there. That's good right there. But now, I'm reading somebody's mind. You're thinking, who are pit people? Pit people are P, people, I-N-T, trouble. People in trouble. And my sisters and brothers, I don't care who you are, how long you have been following Christ, whatever your situation, you have been a pit person. You have been. We find ourselves in various kinds of pits. The pits of discouragement. You can't seem to lose the weight that you want to lose. And so guess what? It throws you into a pit. There's the pit of depression, because you got more bills than dollar bills. And certainly today, many of us are in the pit of depression because our routine has been broken by COVID-19, because of being in isolation. And so now we have become depressed. We find ourselves in a pit caused by disappointment. We didn't get the promotion that we wanted on the job. We didn't get the raise. And so we are disappointed. Perhaps you one of those people that have trained a person and now they the supervisor, they pass right over you. And so now you are in a pit of disappointment. Are in the pit of distress. See, all of what we just got through saying can put us in a pit of distress. All right? And so we saying, woo, this is the pits. Well, let me tell you, in case you're wondering, let me tell you the characteristics of a person stuck in a pit. Number one, you feel like you're sinking. You feel that something is pulling you down inch by inch and you cannot pull yourself out. You cannot get up. It just, you can't even get out of bed. You just wake up and you think I just stay in the bed because you feel like you're sinking, like quicksand pours you down and you're just not able to get up. Jeremiah 38:6, it tells us, so they took Jeremiah and cast him into the dungeon, or cistern pit, in the charge of Melchizedek, the king's son, which was in the court of the guard. And they let Jeremiah down into the pit with ropes, and in the dungeon, or cistern pit, there was no water, but only mire. Only Jeremiah sank in the mire. And there are things that causes us to sink. We just cannot pull ourselves up and out. So you feel like you're sinking. You feel stuck. You feel trapped. You feel that your only option are to misbehave. And that's the way kids act sometimes. They kicking and screaming. And sometimes that's what we do. Kicking and screaming and hollering and hoping that all of this our actions will get us out of the pit. Sweetheart, it will not do. You know, it will not do. So you feel like you're sinking. You feel stuck. And here's another one. You can't stand up. You can't stand up to the assaults, the trials, the temptation. Why? Because your feet are in the mud and in the mire. Any little thing. You know how sometimes something set you off and you think later, well, now, it wasn't all of that, but any little thing is too much for you. I can't take another thing, you say to yourself. I don't want to hear another problem. I can't take another. Because you can't stand up. That's what a pit would do to you. Psalm 69:2 says, I am sinking in deep mud, and there is no solid ground. I am out in deep water, and the waves are about to drown me. This is the pits. Another thing, so you were sinking, you're stuck, you can't stand up, and the last one characteristic that I'm giving you, you can't see. You've lost vision. All you can see is the pit. All you can see is the pit that you're in, the problem that you have, the situation that you're in. Many times we will even say, when somebody say, how you doing? You say, under the circumstances. Well, you shouldn't be under circumstances. You should be over the circumstance. But you've lost all vision. All you can see is the pit. And you can't see any way out of the mess that you're in. You see, because a pit is so poorly lit, we can no longer see things. Once it may have been obvious to us, but now it's all about, I just can't see. Well, let me give you the definition of a pit. Another word for pit is rut. You're in a rut, and a rut is simply a habit or pattern of behavior that become dull and unproductive. It's dull, it's unproductive, but it's hard to change. Woo! I think I just heard somebody say, teach, Geneva, because that's what it is. You are in a rut, or you've got a habit or a pattern that is unproductive, but you can't change it. It's hard to change. Now, to the ancient Hebrew, a pit was literally or figuratively a reference to the grave or to an abyss so deep that the dweller felt like they were the living dead. In other words, they felt like they had been buried alive in our problems, our situations. I'm talking to somebody out there right now. Your problem has been there so long. It could be sickness. It could be your child. It could be you strung out on dope or alcohol or whatever the case may be. Or perhaps you have overcome it. Well, stop and think about. You felt like that you were buried alive, that you are not going to be able to get out from under this. Well, here's what. I want you to hear this. If you don't hear anything else in this lesson today, get this part. This part I'm getting ready to make to you now. A pit is an early grave dug by Satan, and he dug it for you in hopes that he can bury you alive. Woo! Let me say that again, because you need to get that. A pit is an early grave dug by Satan for you in hopes that he can bury you alive. He wants to make, now listen, listen, listen. Don't go out of the room right now. He wants to make your life a mess, your job miserable, your bills a mountain, and your home a madhouse. That's what he wants. That's what he's after, to make your life a mess, to make your job miserable, to make your bills a mountain. You know, all these bills, and yeah, well, you've been laid off because of COVID-19 and the unemployment took too long to kick in, and now look at all these bills I've got, and I guess we're going to start back to school, and then the kids going to need this, and so now, but that's what he wants, and he wants your home to be a madhouse. Because he wants you to stay in the pit, because you are unproductive for God when you are in the pit. But I'm not through. Let me make my last point on this point. Let me tell you, come a little closer so you can hear me. Satan can't make you stay in the pit. He wants you in the pit, but he cannot make you stay in the pit. Now, the flip side of that, God will not make you leave the pit. Woo! God Almighty. See, you have to want to get out of the pit. You heard many times people who are on alcohol or drugs or have a bad eating habit or whatever the case may be, you can't do anything for them. They have to want to do it first. Then you can try to give them all the help you want. But unless they want it, they're not going to put the bottle up. They're not going to put the drugs down. They're not going to. That's because they have to want it first. So Satan can't make you stay in the pit, and God will not make you leave the pit. He'll help you get out when you want to get out. But he's not going to make you get up out of that pit, girl. Get out of that pit. But he's not going to do that. You have to want it. You're overeating. First, you have to want to lose the weight. You have to want to stop. Well, I have a question. You probably have a question. How do we get in a pit? How do we get in a pit? I'm glad you asked, because I got 3 scenarios that I want to give to you of how we get in a pit. Let's go to Genesis 37, verse 22 through 24. Genesis 37, 22 through 24. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hands to restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. Now that's important, what I just said. So they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. So the first way we can get into a pit is we get thrown into a pit. You hear what I'm saying? See, look, you could be in the pit because you got thrown into a pit. Like Joseph. You haven't done anything wrong, but you are in a pit. You say, well, what do you mean get thrown into a pit? a loved one gets sick and suddenly die. Suddenly you are thrown in a pit. That's just happened to me and my family. My uncle, the Reverend Henry Nelson, he was well. He was fine. At least we thought. He go to the doctor and they diagnose him, and now he's gone. Saturday, we go to his homegoing celebration. About what, 53 years old. So suddenly, the Nelson family are thrown into a pit. Nothing anybody did. Certainly, he didn't do anything wrong, but we just got thrown into a pit. You go to work and find your job is gone. Suddenly, you are thrown into a pit. You got a bad doctor's report. Pit, here I come. You get sick and you have no insurance. You're in a pit. Some sick family member molested you when you were young, and you have been in this pit now for years. You didn't do anything wrong, but you're still in the pit. Here it is. You can be thrown into a pit by something or someone because they made a choice. See, you notice Joseph's brothers, they made a choice. Just like someone decides to drive drunk. They made that choice. You could get thrown into a pit because what? Of a crime? Yeah. Look what happened. Breonna Taylor. Her family's in a pit. Why? Because of a no-knock warrant. And we, at 1 o'clock in the morning, we bust the door down. And now suddenly, and she gets shot. And she's in a pit. George Floyd family, in a pit. Why? See, so crime, either by your child or a family member or somebody, can put you in a pit. Now, guess what? I'm not saying that Breonna or George Floyd. What I'm saying is it was a crime that was done to them that put the family in a pit. I'm not going to take it back. Condemnation. Or somebody always criticizing you. You can't do anything right. They're always, well, you know, you should have. Well, I thought, well, this is the way. Well, that's not good. And all of a sudden you think, I can't do anything right. And it discourages you and puts you in a pit. And here's another one. Chronic illness. Can put you in a pit. I'm telling you, you don't have to do anything wrong, but you can end up in a pit. So you get thrown into the pit. Okay, now here's the second. Luke chapter 15, verse 14 through 16. Luke 15, verse 14 through 16. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. By this time, you probably recognize I'm talking about the prodigal son. He was prone to the pit. The first one was thrown. He's prone. What do I mean? He's susceptible. He's likely. He's vulnerable for the pit because of the choices he made. Or since I use choice for the first one, decisions that he made. And decisions that we made can't put us in a pit. See, the prodigal son, he did it to himself. But he didn't mean to. But that's what happened. He ended up in the pits. There it is right there. He was in the pits feeding the pigs. And no good Jew associated with pigs. They didn't eat pigs. They didn't associate with pigs. They didn't have pigs on their farm. So what do I mean that you're susceptible, or you're likely, or you did it to yourself, you didn't mean to? Well, let's just say you meant to watch your weight. You certainly didn't intend to end up with an eating disorder. So, and nobody, well, at least you're saying to yourself, well, nobody knows it, but that's what you think. Or you didn't mean to take the money, you just meant to borrow the money and pay back before anybody knew that the money was gone. You just need to buy a little time, things was kind of tough, and nobody would know, so you rob Peter to pay Paul, and suddenly you find yourself in a fix, in a pit. You need relief for your back pain, and now you're dependent on pain pills. You're in the pit. You're just trying to help your child. I mean, after all, everybody needs a second or third chance. So you've been helping your child, but now the matter's only gotten worse. Instead of helping him stand up on his 2 feet, you was enabling him to do what he's doing. But there are 3 ways we're going to talk today about being in the pit. We just got through talking about one. Thrown. Now you're prone. And the other one is going to be sown. S-O-W-N. You sowed them seeds, you're going to get what the seed sowed. But of the 3, this perhaps you hate the most is getting in the pit yourself. You end up in the pit yourself on your own because of something that you did. You are in the pit because of the decisions you made. And the decisions that we make today can come back and haunt us tomorrow. You're determined to have it all and you want it now. Well, let me tell you, particularly young people who want everything right now. Give me, give me, give me. You don't want to work for it. You don't want to wait on it. You need to understand that you are setting yourself up. Sometimes some things just take time. It's kind of like a young boy watch his dad shave. Now, his dad's shaving, but what if dad gave him the razor and said, here, you shave? Why? He's not, number one, he don't need to. Number two, he's too immature. And so God sometimes keeps blessings from us because we are too immature to handle what he's going to give us. The prodigal son certainly was. He said, look here, Dad, I want what I want what is mine. It wasn't his until his dad died, but he already said, you look, just give me mine. And then he squandered it. He squandered it. And so decisions you made are, you're determined to have it all now, and you're desperate to get out or to help out somebody, and you can mess up. You can put yourself in a pit. Folly can bring us to a low estate. And this was true with David. When we act foolish, we can end up in a pit. And consider David's tome, Psalms 38, verse 4 through 6, and then 9 to 10, and 12, and 14 to 17. I just got it all down here. My guilt, he says, overwhelms me. It is a burden too heavy to bear. My wounds fester and stink because of my foolish sins. Notice he said my. He's not landing on anybody else. I am bent over and racked with pain all day long. I walk around filled with grief. Jump down to verse 9. You know what I long for, Lord. You hear my every sigh. My heart beats wildly. My strength fails, and I am blind. I can't see how to get out of this pit. Jump down to verse 12. Meanwhile, my enemies lay traps to kill me. Those who wish me harm make plans to ruin me. All day long, they plan their treachery. Now let's skip on down to verse 14. I choose to hear nothing, and I make no reply. He said, I'm not going to listen to him. I'm not going to even reply to him, for I am waiting for you, O Lord. You must answer me, O my God. I pray, don't let my enemies gloat over me or rejoice at my downfall. I'm on the verge of collapse, facing constant pain. So the trap is set, feet slip, and the enemy uses the guilt over how you got into the pit to trap you into never getting out. I told you, the enemy wants you to stay in the pit. But get this in your mind, get this in your mind, get this in your mind. The pit is absolutely unacceptable. No matter how responsible or guilty you feel for sliding your way in, here it is. God wants you out. You are no service of God, sitting in a pit. Instead of convicting yourself for being in a pit, use your mouth to talk to God. Instead of convicting yourself, confess to God and cry out for help. That's one of the reasons I'm thinking about Pilgrim's Progress. I love that book, Pilgrim's Progress. Christian had no sooner started on his journey when he discovered himself had slipped and tripped and fell into a pit. And he couldn't get out. Now, the interesting things is that there in this pit, if you haven't read Pilgrim's Progress, I tell you, you missed out on a treat. There were some steps in this pit, but most pits don't have steps. But there were some steps in this pit that Christian could use to get out, but he didn't know it. And all he kept doing was getting further and further in the pit. So how did he get out? A man by the name of Help came and got him out. And Help told him, the Lord of the manor has put steps to help you out. And you know what the steps were called? Promises. And God has given us promises that can help us get up out of the pit. So claim it. Claim this. Psalms 94, verse 18 and 19. Claim it. Claim this verse for yourself. I cried out. I am slipping. I am slipping. But, you got to watch those buts. Your unfailing love, O Lord, supported me. I was slipping, but your unfailing love supported me. When doubts filled my mind, your comfort gave me renewed hope and cheer. Woo! Claim it. Claim it. Mark that in your Bible. Psalms 94, verse 18 through 19. I read from the New Living Translation. So, but that's what it said. I cried out. And we're going to talk more next week about crying out. Oh, Lordy me. Can't wait till next week. 2 Samuel. Now, let's look at the third way. We talk about song. 2 Samuel chapter 15, 1 through 6 in the New Living Translation. After this, Absalom, he was the son of David, bought a chariot and horses, and he hired 50 bodyguards to run ahead of him. He got up early every morning and went out to the gate of the city. When people brought a case to the king for judgment, Absalom would ask where in Israel they were coming from, and they would tell him their tribe. Then Absalom would say, you really got a strong case here. It's too bad the king doesn't have anyone to hear it. You see what Absalom's doing? I wish I were the judge. Then everyone could bring their cases to me for judgment, and I would give them justice. When people tried to bow before him, Absalom wouldn't let them. Oh, no, he would say, don't bow to me. Instead, he took them by the hand and kissed them. Absalom did this with everyone who came to the king for judgment. And so he stole the hearts of all the people of Israel. David sat there not knowing that his own son was plotting against him. You have to read all of it. Let me quickly tell you. Civil war breaks out. Absalom wants his father's throne. And David has got to defend his throne. Absalom all but chased David out of Jerusalem. But the tide begins to turn. And now David and his fighting men, his mighty men, are able to subdue Absalom and his followers. Now, and Absalom now is on the run. So now go to 2 Samuel, chapter 18, verse 9. And then we'll jump down to verse 16 and 17. Verse 9 reads, during the battle, Absalom happened to come upon some of David's men. He tried to escape on his mule. Now look, what kind of king could he be riding on a mule? Now, of course, that's what some said about Jesus when he goes into Jerusalem. But Absalom is not Jesus. But as he rode beneath the thick branches of a great tree, he forgot to duck. That's not what the Bible says. I'm just saying it. But he was too busy. He forgot to duck. And his hair got caught in the tree. His mule kept going and left him dangling in the air. Now, Absalom, see, some of the things that we put store on and we think is all of that, and Absalom thought his hair was a great thing, and it was. My understanding is that his hair was something to behold, but guess what? His hair got caught in the tree, the mule kept going, and there is Absalom hanging in the tree, dangling in the air by his hair. Then Joab, down to verse 16, blew the ram's horn, and his men returned from chasing the army of Israel. They threw Absalom's body into a deep pit in the forest. And what happened is, well, he hanging in the air, you know he was easy enough, even though David said don't kill him. Joab killed him anyway. And then they threw Absalom's body into a deep pit in the forest and piled a great heap of stones over it. And then all Israel fled to their homes. Now, so in other words, the seeds that Absalom sowed caused him to end up in a pit. Galatians 6 and 7 says this, be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So you're in a pit because you did it. The first time you're in the pit, somebody threw you in the pit. The second time, because you made bad choices and you were prone for the pit. This time, you sow bad seeds and you end up in a pit. Why? Because there was something that you wanted. Something that you wanted and you wasn't willing to wait. You wanted to take vengeance. You wanted to hurt that person. You said they don't know who they fooling with, so because you're going to get them. You're going to take vengeance. And you end up in a pit. And here's the thing. Everybody knew what Absalom was doing, but they turned their head. And that can happen to you as well. People can know what you're doing, and they will turn their head. Now that he is dead, they throw him into a pit, and they wipe their hands. Psalms 19 and 13 says, moreover, keep your servant from willful sins. Do not let them rule over me. Then I will be innocent and cleansed from blatant rebellion. And that's what happened, we see with Absalom, is that this was a willful sin that led to blatant rebellion. And in the end, he ended up in a pit, dead. Why? Because of the choices that he made. He made the choice to undermine the king. He was unstable in his action. He was unethical in his doing. And nobody checked him. And he ended up in the pit, dead in a pit. Okay, so now you see how you got in the pit. So you might be asking a question, how do I get out of the pit? You want to know how to get out of the pit, right? Okay, here's what you do. Come back next week and we're going to talk about how to get out of the pit, okay? See you next week. Don't forget, check all the listens I told you about the pastor's birthday celebration. And we will see you next week. Be blessed.